Before we get into a discussion about the world of reality television, we were talking about both of our previous lives,
yes,
right?
So funny.
Right, that we both like had connections to investment and finance and the world of investment banking.
Well, not me, but my husband.
But your husband, but yes. You were a part of that ecosystem,
yes,
right?
I certainly was. I was a crucial part. You know what they say, a man without a good wife is like a boat at night with no compass.
Didn't know that they said that, but now it makes a lot of sense. So if you were able to talk to your younger self, given all that you've done now, what would you tell that 25-year-old Dorinda?
That question is asked of me often, and I think I would advise her to not be so fearful, to have more trust and just kind of go for it. You know, I think especially from my generation of women, we kind of grew up fearful and didn't really think that our movement could be that big. So I grew up in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. My father was a telephone man. My mother was, worked for the family company. She was a bookkeeper and ethnic, Polish, Italian. So if I married the best guy in town, the chief of police, the dentist, the lawyer, God forbid I married a doctor, I would have been royalty in our town. But that, that was sort of like as far as you went.
Yeah.
Right? But I, from an early age, just decided, I'm getting out of here. And no one was telling me to do it because there was more of like, you can always come back home. Don't go to New York City. Oh, don't go too far. A lot of that. So the fact that I did it, but I did it hesitantly, I wish that I had been a little bit even more open to opportunities than I was.
And let's think of it in reverse now. If that 25-year-old Dorinda saw how you had become part of the cultural conversation in America, part of the zeitgeist through the world of reality television, what would she think?
Well, the humility that I was raised with, my parents are very humble and beautiful and very religious. So I even find it hard to think that people think of me like that.
But they do, Dorinda.
Yeah, do they?
Yes. Yes. After we watched season 4 of Traitors, I mean, it was...
I think about myself as more of a warrior and a survivor and someone that if I put my mind to it can do anything. My mother would always say, a no is just a harder yes. And I'm always thinking about what can I do to keep myself busy, interested, and interesting. So even today, and I swear to God, it just happened the other day, I DJ'd at an event for our new show, The Golden Life, and I walked into this very trendy hip bar in Delray Beach thinking, oh my God, all these people are 22 years old, they're not even, and so what am I doing, right? This is a disaster, right? And I walk in and they all start cheering and yelling, and I think, how do people know who I am? You're like 25 years old. So there is this overwhelming sense of humility and joy and wow. And I'm not going to lie to you, I feel very proud of myself, not only in just the way that I've been able to transition, take on things that happen and pull up my bootstraps and pivot and move into a new direction. And I'm very glad. I feel like my mother did her very best with her toolbox to push me forward. And I feel like I've done a really great job pushing Hannah forward. I was walking in the park yesterday morning, and I was thinking, my great-grandmother, Polish, came over here. My grandmother came over here on the boat, like everyone else, to Ellis Island. And her great-granddaughter is getting her PhD at Harvard. So how did that happen? You know what I say? Good women, good mothers.
That's right. Good women, good mothers. Too. I love that. No,
listen,
you're absolutely
my
right.
mother's the foundation. My father's the beautiful house.
Were you aware of reality television when you even started to consider joining the cast of Real Housewives of New York?
I've known these girls forever. So I was...
Right, but you knew the girls. But did you know this...
I was in the background. So if you look at the old episodes, I was the person they invited to come to all the events, that signed the release, that, would hang out with the girls afterwards. Because of where, it's funny, when I was with my first husband, who we spoke of, I was very dedicated to that role. So I didn't think much away from
Being
that.
a wife.
Yeah,
and a
being
mom.
an investment banker's wife, being
Yeah.
a mom, making sure everything ran smoothly, making sure that my husband was in the best position he could be. I mean, I always had little businesses, but those were jobs within themselves, especially when you're moving countries all the time and picking up and leaving. And then with my second husband, I enjoyed just being in a place where I didn't have to worry so much anymore. He was a successful guy. I had been divorced for about 6 years, and Hannah was about 12, and I was thinking it was so nice just to be able to kind of exhale a little bit and be back in a family unit.
Yeah.
So even though I would go to all these events with my friends who were housewives, I didn't really see myself in that world because I was so much in my world and very content in my world.
So what made you then want to open up that life of yours to us, the public?
You know what made me open up my life is a couple things. In the same year, Ralph passed away and Hannah went to college. And I really had one of those moments where I was like, wait a second. Those are two of my major roles, now what? And I had thought of myself, I was going into my 50s thinking, well, I can't really start over. But I'm too young to do nothing. So that really weird place for a woman, right? And, Ramona Singer came up to me one day and said, will you please just be a housewife? Andy would always loved you, and do it for a year, just as a friend, just as a distraction. Now that you don't have Hannah and you don't have your husband as an excuse, because they would ask me, do you want to come on? Do you want to come on as a friend? And I just woke up one morning and I thought, why not? Why not? I don't have to, I have really no one to answer to anymore. And I get to just be, I don't need to be Dorinda Medley, John and Diane's daughter. I don't need to be Mrs. Lynch or Mrs. Medley. I'm still mom, but she's at college. Maybe I need a new role. Maybe I just need to find out who Dorinda is. And so I jumped in the water I thought I would be a friend. But I'll be honest with you, from day one, I loved it. I saw the camera and I thought, oh, well.
Yes, Dorinda.
I love the camera and the camera seems to love me. It's true, I had an instant love
it's
affair with it.
absolutely. That is why when you walk into a bar in Florida or a club, 25-year-olds cheer for you. Yes. Because of what you just said.
Yeah, and it's been very good to me because unlike, people ask you all these questions. Do you regret this? Do you that? I'm not a regretter. I'm very Sagittarian like that. I just don't think regret is a master that should be served. What are you going to do about it, right?
Sag.
Yeah. What's going on? Maybe you should get divorced and we should get married.
That's right. Let's do it. Make something for the camera and for reality. That'd be a reality show like no other. No, I love you, babe. I love you. But no, it's so interesting because what you're saying, which is that the camera, you took to the camera like a moth to the flame, and the camera loves you.
Well, I think one of the big requirements for being a housewife is authenticity. And as my mother would say, Dorinda Medley, you have charisma. You can't buy that. You have charisma. When you're good, you're great. When you're bad, you're terrible. So she's kind of right. Yeah. That's why if I'm not feeling great about myself or others, I stay home. I lock the doors, I don't pick up the phone.
It's so funny. I'm the same.
Yes.
Like, if you don't want to be around
We're
people,
introverts.
you don't want to be the one that brings the vibe down.
That's it. But that same vibe is what connects you with people and the camera and sort of the world. Because, Sagittarians, and not just Sagittarians, but these specific women, I always say it when I even see, if I'll just have dinner with them randomly some night, I can not just see them, I can feel them walk into a room. There's just something. And I have brought on many women to audition, women that are big socialites, they have big personalities in the real world, but they just don't translate.
Why do you think that is?
Awkwardness, being too aware, being too worried. That's the great thing about being on reality TV. You have to be able to not care. Just say, you know what I put out and what I'm going to give to the world will be more important some of the bad they're going to see. Macroly, they'll walk away with something wonderful, but I got to suffer the micro scabs and cuts in the meantime. But that creates authenticity.
Is that okay with you that what you see is what you get?
Yes.
There's not a Dorinda that you see on the show, in front of the camera, or one that I would run into at a nightclub here in New York City.
100%. Because I'm like that in my real life, and Hannah knows that, my daughter. It's funny, I was having one of the last days, we were in Palm Beach filming The Golden Life on E, and which is very exciting and going to be such a great show. And the last night, we had dinner with someone from MGM. I wasn't filming it. I was just meeting a friend of Palm Beach. They said, oh, blah, 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 it's here from MGM. And we were talking, and I was saying, oh, well, I'm just a reality star, not, you deal with real stars. He goes, let me tell you something. Herein lies the difference. The world feels much more connected to reality stars in a lot of ways because these scripted stars, although great, they're not approachable, and the audience knows that's not really them. So he said, you are exactly as I think of you on TV, which is so refreshing, he said. Your hand movements are the same, the way you tell jokes, your one-liner. He said, I feel like I know you. So that is where the kind of magic happens, when someone can sit with me. I don't know if you watch a show, and know my good, my bad. It's a marriage. My good, my bad, my otherwise, but you love me.
Yeah. So then you describe what you think makes a good reality star. Why do you think people, beyond the approachability factor or the fact that people think that they know you, why do you think people come back to this series? You're talking about the new one that you're doing, which is reuniting with the women from New York. Why do you think people keep coming back for more?
Well, I think that people see a lot of themselves in
They
both
do.
the good things and the bad things. We're all kind of doing the same thing at the end of the day. We're all kind of, trying to get through it, survive the good, survive the bad, enjoy the good. I even see it with raising a daughter. Everything was a guessing game. Getting your period, what's that? Getting pregnant, when am I going to have it? Like, no one told you. Everything was, shh, don't say, just don't say anything, right?
Right.
So, I love about my daughter's generation, they're much more aware of their health and their hormones, and they talk about their sexual relationships more freely. And they show you I would never talk or act and Hannah's a great kid, but, we have discussions. I would never talk that way with my mother. There was kind of a facade. Yes, no, sorry. Oh, my God, scared, don't do that. Whereas, and it's like that with these women. There's just an incredible connection. We're showing them that life, you can actually be hugely successful, and you can actually, have it all, but you're flawed. Please don't try perfection. You are going to fail terribly. We have walked in those shoes, and we can get through it. And I actually think it brings, I feel like this next generation communicates with their fellow women and men more. Our generation, we suffered singularly. How you doing? Fine. I even felt that way after Richard passed. People would walk to me up on the street and be like, how are you doing? In my mind, I want to say, I'm doing terribly.
But you never did.
Help! You know what I mean?
But you wouldn't.
But instead, I was like, oh, yeah, no, everything's fine.
Fine.
It's a difficult time. And, and then go straight to the liquor store and get a beautiful bottle of Montrachet and go home and lock the door at 2 p.m, right? That's it. Whereas I love now, women use resources and reach out more freely, and there's no shame in being perfectly perfect.
But here's another question for you. How would you describe this generation of reality stars? Because when I watch the original episodes of Orange County or New York City or Atlanta,
the classics,
the women
the broads,
are, like you said,
the broads,
authentic. They are authentic to who they are, and they don't care what you think. I could be wrong, but I feel like when I watch this generation, when I watch The Bachelorette or The Bachelor or Love Island, it feels like the people competing in these series or who are part of these series are very, not just aware of the cameras, they're aware of things that go beyond what we're witnessing, which is they want to be influencers. They want to monetize what they're doing on the show in another way. And so they come there with already a preconceived notion of who you're going to see on camera, as opposed to who they actually are. Am I wrong in reading it that way?
I thought you were going to, thank God you answered the question for me. And they have much more to, I think because of social media, because of influencer, because of money, because they figured out the puzzle, that they have much more to lose than we did. You know, when we started, I had to be taught Instagram. Right? NBC had to literally send me to Meta, to Facebook, it was then, the offices, and get me an @name. And I was like, well, now what? And I remember I hit 100 followers, and I was like, oh, I'm famous. You know?
That's so great.
And I still have the same, I think, picture practically up. Whereas now, you know, they watch, they do a lot of, you know, people are almost celebrities without even being on TV.
Mm-hmm.
What they're very aware of posting. Everything's filmed. They have far more access to stylists and team. We didn't have a team.
You didn't have that, no.
I mean, literally, our group, they would say to, you know, me and maybe Luann, now you're going to stand in front of a hot dog stand, and, you know, Luann's face is going to go on the Jumbotron. Just you bite into a hot dog, but then you can look up at Luann at the Jumbotron. And that was it. We didn't think about me biting into a hot dog and the ketchup going down. Like, that just wouldn't happen. Right? Whereas now if you can see, they're much more fashionable. Mm-hmm. They're much more put together. They're closing brand deals from the minute they're on, you know, and I just think there's far more awareness. There's definitely a bit of a wall between the audience and reality stars now. I think
is that good or bad?
More. Different. You know, I think I understand it a little bit. I always say I'm so happy that Hannah is raised, because I don't even know what it'd be like to raise a child in this kind of new world we live in that's constantly on, and God knows when they're on their computers who's in their bedroom with them, right, on the computer. We just didn't have any of that, so it allowed us to be incredibly free and incredibly giving to the audience. When I would leave the Housewives and we would wrap, I literally just went back up to Bluestone Manor to my house and didn't think about it.
Right.
Never.
Help me understand, and I love Andy, but help put into context how his vision for what has ultimately become this gigantic franchise, how his vision drove all of this.
Oh my God, I think that's an Andy question. I think that, you know, this was an opportunity for kind of the first women to take the power back. And, you know, when you probably have never been, but when you go to BravoCon, it is
Never been, but I would love to come.
It is a phenomenon. I don't care if you're not even a Bravo fan. I brought a friend this year who works for Forbes Travel, so it's quite fancy.
Yep.
And he was like, I don't know, Dee. And I was like, just come. Mm-hmm. It's like going to Disney. Pretend like when you go to Epcot, you're actually in Japan. Just pretend. You know, you have to just go with it. When you go to the castle, someone really lives there named Cinderella. He said he has never in his life experienced that many people and how all the housewives are interconnected. And the power, 20, 30,000 people, and the kind of joy that these women bring. It's very empowering, not only for us, but for them. So there's nothing like it.
No, and it's a perfect segue to the question that I had in asking you about this world that Andy Cohen has created, and now this ecosystem which exists where we don't just know you from the Real Housewives franchise, we know you from Ultimate Girls Trip, and now you've got a new series
and
coming
Traitors
out. And Traitors, season
and
4
Radio
of Traitor.
Andy. You know,
and now this Golden Life reboot.
The Golden Life. That's the thing too. It's before, you know, who would have thought that this generation, my generation, at 50 years old, could start a whole new blossoming career? I have been on Bravo TV. I've done The Ultimate Girls Trip. I've done Traitors Twice. I'm on Radio Andy 4 days a week. I have my own show with Keek Monique. I'm writing my second book with Simon and Schuster called I Know a Thing or Two About a Thing or Two. And now we have this new show out called The Golden Life coming out in the fall with E. So who would have thought 20, 30 years ago, this person here at 61 would not be doing all this, or most likely would not be. They would be like, well, it's time to wind down. They certainly wouldn't have started this at 50.
But you have never, at this point in your life, said it's time to wind down. When
God,
Traitors came calling for season 4, you'd already done it one season, you were in.
Say yes, no. I think I'll work until I can't work anymore. I personally love to work. And I think that's why New York City suits me so well, because, you know, you start working in New York City when you go get a coffee. You gotta start interacting and, you know, playing chess, checkers, and whoever needs what, right? I just love that whole thing. And I really, really love making my own money and the financial sort of freedom it brings me. You know, listen, it was fantastic being married to my 2 husbands, but, you know, it was their money.
Now it's yours.
Now it's mine.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. So do you feel like it's work?
I wake up every morning and jump out of bed, just thrilled to do what I do. When we were filming The Golden Lives, the production team, Nadine, the woman that helped produce it and run it was called Nadine. She works for E, and she did Below Deck for years and years and years. And she said, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what it was going to be like, because those are very young people, what it was going to be like to work with you girls. You know, she said, I have never seen people get out of bed and the way you girls work, like you're like workhorses. You work and then you still go out for drinks at night. And I think that is a little bit generational. You know, we all grew up I started to work at 14, dusting, you know, at the Red Line Inn. But I loved it. I was like, yes, I got the job.
Because you're making money.
Yeah.
It affords you a certain level of freedom. And,
you know, I was never, there was no being bored. I don't get bored. Like, I don't believe in that word. I think if you have time, then start writing. If you have more time, go for a run. If you have more time, you know, try something new. I was thinking the other day, is it too late to learn how to play chess? I've never learned how to, so I've started to look online, chess, and my daughter's like, YouTube it, you know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, that's what I'm gonna start doing.
Right.
I'm gonna get a chess, I have a great chessboard at Bluestone Manor, and I always watched Hannah play with Richard and stuff, but I never learned it.
And now you're ready to learn.
I mean, I play human life chess, but I want to start playing board chess.
If someone say that the human game of chess, where you're actually dealing with real life, is probably harder than the board game.
Yes.
And you're succeeding in that.
I played, as I said once, I play chess, you play checkers.
Oh, snap. Okay, all right. Well, so is there a part of you, we talked about what makes a reality star someone that people want to pay attention to, but is there also an aspect of it, let's face it, if there's a little bit of messy.
A lot of messy. People want messy. If it's too perfect, if it's too pristine, if you say all the right things, then that's boring. But again, like everything, you know, where there's good, there's bad, where there's happy, there's sad, and there's extremes in that. So the key is to manage that, right?
To manage the messy?
Manage the messy, and because, you know, the minute you start getting labeled one thing, that gets scary for a housewife.
Mm-hmm. Like what? Give me an example.
It happens, you know, you are bankrupt, you are fooling around with someone, you're a drunk, you're doing, you know, you're a cheater, you're a, you know, whatever. You have to,
so in your mind, those
you're
things,
a villain.
If that happens, that's bad.
It's not that it's bad. It's that you have to.
I don't mean bad like
you have to manage it.
Right. I don't mean bad like adultery is bad. We can establish it. But what I mean, like in the universe of reality television, when the things that happen in real life, bankruptcies happen. Oftentimes, people cheat in real life on
people die.
Exactly. Is that too much for a viewer and for a show, or?
Well, that's where you sometimes have to manage it. I've been watching the other shows where I'm like, oh, that's too much.
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch how the key and the magic is where sometimes it doesn't get managed well and someone falls off the face of the earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's many times where you see they turn it around and they become almost more famous. People go to jail and come back, and they actually have a bigger season the next season, right? So it's just in the way, and I think a lot of that is driven by how you personally handle it and how you put it back to the world. I think that a lot of these housewives are incredibly resilient, and I think they're broads, they're tough. And the truth of the matter is nothing lasts forever. Like you're big news today and no one cares about you the next week because there's some other housewife behind you very quickly going to do something worse than you, right? So you're like, oh my God, just let the sweet get by, you know? No comment, no comment, no comment. That was always my thing.
But you do still believe that what we are seeing is real?
You know, I can't speak to...
And I mean Housewives, I mean Ultimate Girls Trip, I mean what were...
Well, mine were, and my Ultimate Girls up at Bluestone Manor, 100%. And St. Bart's. You know, I just don't know the other cast. From what I would see, what I would think, but I'm not really the authority on it anymore, is that the older class are probably doing it the old way. Mm-hmm. The newer ones sort of figured out all the ropes. They've already played the game a couple times, so they know what's ahead of them. And I don't know if... I always wonder if you're going to see the kind of housewives that last 13 years, 14 years, 15 years, 16. I mean, that's a phenomenon when you think about it. I think there's going to... I do get the feeling sometimes because I'm Radio Andy, we cover reality. And I have noticed a trend where about the sixth season in a lot of these franchises now, they start to spark out a bit. I always say the key about being a good reality star is every year you have to be like an oyster. You have to spit out one little pearl. Mm-hmm. It can be a small one year, a huge one the next, and just then you can kind of glide for a year. I think a lot of the housewives come on and they give too much too fast. They give the whole pearl necklace. You know? And I think that you have to be careful of that because if you give out too much too fast, then you have to almost make up stuff.
When you do give out, ultimately, for someone who's been in this game as long as you have, when you give so much of yourself, what is it like when you interact with fans who love you dearly? Do you
and hate you sometimes?
Sometimes, but when they talk to you like they know you like a sibling or a family member, how does that make you feel? Do you like the fact that like millions of people seem to know you?
I don't know if it's millions. I really don't.
Check
God,
the ratings. America has 380 million people, 400 million people, and the numbers for Housewives, for all the things that you do, Traders, is like astronomical. So,
but the great thing is that's collective, you know.
Sure. But when you are interacting with a fan and they start talking to you like they know you intimately, how does that make you feel? Do you feel like they know you intimately or not?
Yes, in a weird way, especially on certain things. I think one of my kind of aha moments was after I did the scene with Carol in London, and we talked about her husband dying and my husband dying, and rawly honest about how it felt to be. Because I had said at one point, I know people are calling me a widow, but I'm just too young. It seems like such isn't there a better word, a sort of more glamorous word? You know what I mean? Because I'm just too young to be a widow. Yeah. And we were just kind of talking about it in a way that maybe people hadn't spoken about it. The amount of women and men that reached out to me and just were so like almost dying, well, bad word, I was gonna say dying to talk about it, but so willing to open up and talk about it and be able to have something other than a,
so sorry, yeah.
Like, I remember, I remember saying, isn't it weird the first time you go out and you really just are somewhere and you're laughing really hard and you go home and you're like, oh. But then people are like, yeah, I did that 2 nights after my actual partner died. Because we're human. people die. So I think that is, those kind of topics are important, and it's great that you can have an influence on life and maybe give people a voice about that which they may not have felt comfortable talking about. And I don't want you to think, or like I'm making it out like fairies and fluff balls. There's times when I've walked away from episodes and thought, I'm never doing this again. My life is over. You know what I mean?
What was one? Give me an example of that when that happened
God,
to you.
there's so many. What season and which episode?
Well, because let me ask you in a two-part question. What is the most proud that you've ever been in something that happened on one of the shows? And what's been a point where you've been like, you know what, F this, I don't need this?
Well, I have them both.
Exactly. I want to give me one of each.
I think my proudest moments were Bluestone Manor, when I was entertaining and I was at Bluestone Manor and I showed this beautiful house that my great-grandfather built when he was a mason and came over from Italy. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, I own it. And I cooked, I cleaned, I decorated, I made it nice. Yeah. That was sort of like, to me, like one of the most, joyful, outrageous, even though we were arguing at the time. It was impactful.
Yeah.
And you felt like you were there. We've all been in that family, right? Mm-hmm. Where you try to make it nice and nothing goes right. And then, of course, you have those nights like when we were in, I think it was Turks and Caicos, and I had the FU dinner because I drank like martinis, 2 are great for your, martinis are like breasts, 2 are great, 3 are too many, and I think I had like 5.
I know you like your martinis.
Not like that anymore. Because you have to learn to manage that because, when you go out in the real world, you have 2 martinis, then you go home. But then you're filming 3 hours, and then you're like, sure, I'll have another one. Mm-hmm. Then you really forget you have a mic on. And you're like, who cares, right? Those are the gotcha moments.
Yeah.
So, when I had the FU dinner with Heather, I watched that and I thought, my life is over.
Did you really watch it and go, oh, shoot?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, there was that. Where can we can?
And what was the, just so you look at it, you watch it and you go, oh man. And then what ultimately is the result of that? Like, what did the fans say?
The next episode comes on and there's someone else. And the train keeps moving. Right. And you definitely have to learn, the first time you go through that social media thing, you have to learn to just stop listening to it. And you certainly I was never a responder. And which I think really saved me a lot of, and it's funny because
like you don't respond on social media to trolls.
I don't block, I don't delete, and if I respond, I just respond with a heart. Or if you do respond, you say something like, it's really interesting, I learned this trick. If you say, I'm sorry you feel that way, then they'll write like, oh my God,
I don't mean to be
I didn't
mean.
Do that.
Yeah.
I didn't really mean that. Is that really you? And then you'll get a DM. I'm sorry. Yeah. So you have to realize that a lot of this is people venting to what they think is no one, a cartoon character. And they're kind of in a weird way, not that I'm giving their grace, this is their way of working out stuff that maybe is working out, but they know that, or they think we're not really at the other end. So, it just comes with the territory, you know what I mean?
Yeah. One of the things that I thought was interesting about season 4, which I love season 4 of Trader, you were, as I told you earlier, you were amazing in it, but I wondered why Alan never made you a traitor.
That's interesting. Well, can I tell you the truth? I never wanted to be a traitor.
You never wanted to be a traitor?
No.
Why?
Because I can't stay up that late. I would be given away so quickly when I was falling asleep at the round table. I mean, I was like, please don't make me a traitor. Please, God, no. No, and this first time, maybe I was a little bit fearful, but I did know, they stay up until like 3 a.m.
I didn't know that.
And then, so when the round table's over and we all go to sleep.
That whole scene where they're down in the dungeons and everything,
that's in the middle of the night. Then they have to get up the next morning and do all that stuff again. So it's a tough job. And it's a lot of mind, which, is very exhausting.
Sure.
I think I would have been a good trader if it not for like this. But I did think I was possibly going to be picked.
I thought you were going to be picked.
Now, I think a little bit of it is because he's very good friends with my friends, and maybe he feels like he knew me too well. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Which is funny because it was funny when I would interview with him. I think, I don't know who you are. You know what I mean? But and also, The second time, I just think it would have been too obvious.
What was the interview like with Alan?
Well, he's just amazing.
He's
He's
amazing.
so easy to talk to. And you just want to burst out laughing the whole time.
He
You know
makes
what I
you
mean?
laugh
Yes.
all the time. Yeah.
He's just such a character. And the costumes, although they look fantastic on TV, they're outrageous in real life. So every morning when he'd walk in with a different costume, you'd think, what? And it would sort of be the only highlight of the day before the treachery and murder and you know, all the killing took place, you know? So he was the highlight of the day. It is such an incredible thing to do. I'm so happy I got the opportunity to do it twice because it's one of those things that unless you do it, you can't explain it. It's like you've left the world and that it's very Lord of the Flies, but in a beautiful castle. And I'm going to tell you something that's so interesting. And one day I'll write about it when it doesn't matter anymore. And I can tell all my secrets. No, I'm just kidding.
No, tell us all your secrets now, Dorinda.
Humans conform very quickly.
Humans can.
They conform very quickly, like frighteningly so, for the good and for the bad. You know, you all start off saying, I'd never, I couldn't, I wouldn't. And the next day you're like, you know, trying to chop so much into steaks for tea so you can eat that night. You know what I mean? It's amazing how you can see and this is in sort of a controlled environment. You can only imagine what it's like when you're in a really bad situation.
Did you know that before this, before Traders, before Real Housewives, or do you know it now because of your experiences?
Well, I just know, I'm talking about on Traders.
Okay,
yeah.
so, but what you just said is really fascinating in terms of human nature. You said human beings conform very quickly.
Very
so
fast.
did you realize the human capacity for either betraying or...
Well, I understood it in sort of a literal sense, but to actually see how you can see it happening in front of you. You know when you watch these shows where a plane crashes and then someone's eating their best friend and you think, I could never!
Yeah, I mean, there's only been a couple of shows like that, like Yellow Jackets, but yes, I know what you mean,
what
right?
I mean?
Yes,
It's very
you're
Yellow
cannibalizing your
Well, not even just that, just like going in groups or getting paranoia kicks in. I'm sure if you know, listen, Traders isn't that bad, but you know, you see the beginnings, the making of people conforming and becoming very singular. And forming packs, which is scary, unbreakable packs that are sort of mentally, at that point when you're in Traders, based on survival. But then the person you make a pack with could actually be your killer the next day. So you start to get a little bit like, dun, 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 you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I thought, God, you could see, I look at sort of situations differently and I judge less because I don't know how you don't know how you would act in extreme situations. You just don't know.
We think we know, but we don't.
Well, we all read Lord of the Flies growing up, right? And we thought, okay, that can never happen, right? But it happens, I think. I mean, is that too dark?
No, it's perfect, and it's exactly why I think the premise of Traders works so brilliantly, because people want a glimpse into.
And there's no other noise. So you remember, there's no social media, there's no internet, there's no telephones, there's no TV, there's no newspapers, there's no real clocks. So it's just what's in front of you. From where you go, when you go, how you go, what you eat, everything.
Which of your Traders castmates would make a good housewife?
Well, the ones that are already housewives. Well, you know, I became close to a lot of the ones that were already in the reality world. So let me think.
Like if Maura if she got married
I don't know if Maura would be a great housewife.
Really?
She's wonderful, and but she's very sweet.
Wait, what does that mean? You're saying that she's too sweet for the world that I inhabit when it comes to.
Yeah, I just think you need to be a bit gritty. You know, I always think of us as like the head wolves in the pack. You know, we'll kind of, you know, follow us, but don't get too close because we bite. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
We'll follow you to food, but don't get too close because we bite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she's just, you know, who do I think? Maybe I was going to say Lisa Rinna, but she's, of course, she was one of the best.
She's, of course, she's a...
There got to be someone else. Kristen is a top chef, so she's already...
Yeah. But that's interesting. Yeah,
Well, she would be a great housewife character.
Especially because she flew
so
kind of
smart.
under the radar for that season.
And she, you know, there's nothing more powerful than a woman that doesn't talk too much, but when she talks, you're scared to death.
That's what I'm saying. Like we were
like
watching,
I'm, you know, mouthing all the time.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, I'd be like,
but then you're like, wait, what's Kristen thinking?
Exactly.
Like, what is going through her mind?
As my great late husband always said, be careful of the quiet ones.
For sure. Let me ask you about your tagline.
Which one?
Which is your favorite of all the Dorinda taglines? Which is the one that you think most people associate you with?
I tell it like it is, but I always make it nice. Yeah, diamonds aren't a girl's best friend. Martinis are. And you know what's fun about lines like that? You're leaning right into it.
Yes.
So no one can take the piss out of you anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you drink too many martinis. I'm like, well, they're like, you know, better than diamonds.
Yeah, that's right.
So you have to have a sense of humor. Even if you're not feeling it, even if the person is making you so mad you want to poke their eyes out, you kind of have to be like, well, you're bringing it up, so I'm relevant. You know what I mean? And we came up with our own tagline.
Wait, you did? Uh-huh. You came up with your own tagline?
A lot of times we did. They would ask for suggestions, but I'm great at those one-liner things, so I always wanted to make my... In fact, they had Tamara Judge steal my tagline for Orange County.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
really?
So when she
Tamara
said,
stole your tagline?
Well, they gave it to her.
Yeah, you came up with it.
That was mine. That was my tagline. I gave it to him. I actually said it on Watch What Happens Live. I said my tag was going to be, I may have been put on, I may be on pause, but I'm ready to press play. And then it got used in Orange County, and I called up Andy. I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's great. Let me ask you about, what do you think is harder, being a housewife, Traitors, or Survivor?
Well, I would never do Survivor.
You would never do Survivor?
Never in a million years.
Why?
And because that's gone too far.
You did very well on the challenges on Traitors.
Did I?
I mean,
as
you
Lisa
weren't the
Rinna
best,
and
but
I said,
you survived.
We survived.
You survived.
Lisa Rinna and I were like, we are too old. I said, I think I just had a heart attack on the top of it. So, listen.
But you, like you said earlier, Dorinda, you never know how you're going to do until you try.
No, that's too much of an uncontrolled environment. And I don't want to be naked and afraid. I don't want to be eating things that are raw. No. I do have a sense of luxury and decorum that I must keep, and it all requires keeping a certain amount of clothes on.
I want to give you an opportunity to talk about the spinoff and what we can expect to see as you reunite with your fellow.
I just got back from Palm Beach. Me, Luann, Sonia, Ramona, and Kelly all did The Golden Life for E, which we're very excited about. And it was great because, you know, even though we're all still quite close, we all have different lives now. You know, we all live in different places. Our children are growing up. The things that connected us don't anymore. We're all living in the same neighborhood, all having children of the same age. So even though we talk on the phone, it was the first time we kind of like were able to all spend 2 months together. And it's interesting to see how these women, they just keep it moving. They just keep opening themselves up to new things. And it's very inspiring. Boy, 60 looks so different now, doesn't it? And it makes me very proud. I was watching them all walk down the beach one day, and I was thinking, this is amazing. That each one has still got a story to tell, embarking on new things, and just joyful. And I just think I think the audience is gonna love that. And I'm really so proud of E for taking that on.
Is there anything you can share with us that's sort of a little tease that's super juicy?
Well, you see me DJ.
Okay, that's a good one, yeah.
You see me DJ. Here's something you probably won't believe. Luann does her cabaret in it.
No, Luann sings? What? Can't wait for that.
And we love every minute of it.
We do.
I think it's interesting that one thing I will say that I can't give much away, because quite frankly, we just finished on Saturday. So the fact that teaser came out on Monday, were surprised about. Is that wild to you?
I mean, they know what they've got on their hands.
They
and
know,
they want,
yes.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe, as someone that's been in the business for a long time, that they have a ton of content to be able to turn around a teaser like that so quickly, right? I haven't even, I'm still unpacked my bags yet. So I think that you're going to see that, you know, these girls just know each other at a level that is fun and interesting and familiar, but also you're going to be surprised how they all are just living new, exciting lives with new, exciting things going on. A lot of, you know, there's things that are still the same, but there's a lot of new too. And I just think it's a joyful, I think we need joy and nostalgia, a little arguing, some good old-fashioned fun, and a couple of martinis. And there you go, you got a show.
With that, our interview's over. That was awesome. Thank you so much.